Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your patience. We're going to give everybody just a sec to come on in and we'll get started. Okay. Thank you all again for joining us today. We're really excited to be hosting our 20 Years of Cybersecurity Awareness Month kickoff event to celebrate the 20th Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaign. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available to view after the event. Before we get started, I'd just like to thank our Cybersecurity Awareness Month event sponsors, our gold sponsors, Amazon, Google, ADP, and KnowBe4. Our silver sponsors, Optiv, Wells Fargo, Microsoft, and Dell Technologies, and our bronze sponsors, the Cyber Threat Alliance and Bank of America. So now I'll turn it over to the National Cybersecurity Alliance Executive Director, Lisa Plagmeyer, to get us started.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Thank you for being with us today as we kick off Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We are the National Cybersecurity Alliance. We're a nonprofit organization on a mission to create a more secure, interconnected world. We advocate for the safe use of all technology and educate everyone on how to best protect ourselves, our families, and our organizations from cybercrime. We create strong partnerships between governments and corporations to amplify our message and to foster a greater digital good. Cybersecurity efforts require a well-coordinated public-private approach to ensure that every part of our interconnected society is secure, which is why we've gathered leaders today from the public and private sectors to join us and share their initiatives, priorities, and insights into our nation's cybersecurity. We're also here in honor of 20 years of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, co-led by the NCA and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. This year, CISA announced their new evergreen campaign, Secure Our World, complete with a PSA. All month long, we're sharing cyber best practices and advice for staying safe and secure at home, at work, and at school. You can learn more about the month on our website, StaySafeOnline.org. I would now like to welcome the Deputy Director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Nitin Natarajan. Nitin?
Great. Thanks, Lisa, for that introduction and for joining us last week at the launch of CISA's new Cybersecurity Awareness Program. As Lisa said, my name is Nitin Natarajan. I'm the Deputy Director for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA. CISA is honored to partner with the National Cybersecurity Alliance in presenting the 20th Annual Cybersecurity Awareness Month this October. We are so proud of the work we've accomplished over CISA's short 5 years of existence to reduce cyber risk and improve online behavior across the nation. Our work with the NCA, its board, along with Lisa and her great team, to make Cybersecurity Awareness Month a tool to amplify critical messaging about online threats has been an important part of reducing the nation's cyber risk. Based on how much has already been accomplished over these past 2 decades, we look forward to collaborating to achieve even more throughout the next 20 years. Back in the early 2000s, when the internet was becoming an integral part of our daily life and the proliferation of online services, e-commerce, and digital communication, there was an uptick of potential risks of cyber attacks, data breaches, and identity thefts that became evident. In 2001, at the request of the Department of Homeland Security, the National Cybersecurity Alliance started collaborating with the public and businesses to improve national cybersecurity, to educate people about cybersecurity and include businesses and others who use the internet. DHS and NCA established Cybersecurity Awareness Month and formally launched it in October of 2004. CISA, as many of you know, was established by DHS in 2018, and we started collaborating with NCA on Cybersecurity Awareness Month initiatives. The campaign began with the goal of bridging domestic and foreign interests and growing current alliances to transcend borders, cultures, and sectors. Cybersecurity Awareness Month and has continued to be impactful, have an impactful reach over the last 2 decades. The evolution of technology over the past 2 decades has also brought challenges and complexities to the realm of cybersecurity. As a result, Cybersecurity Awareness Month has adapted its focus to encompass emerging trends such as social engineering, phishing vulnerabilities, and the risks associated with remote work. The past 20 years of Cybersecurity Awareness Month has provided us with an opportunity to highlight growing risks. As technology changes exponentially, so do the risks to the public, to small businesses. to federal, state, local, tribal, territorial governments, and those target-rich but resource-poor organizations that are increasingly being targeted by malicious cyber actors. We recognize the need to keep the conversation going year-round and to build safe online practices into our everyday lives, especially as we become increasingly connected over these last 20 years. In that spirit, as Lisa mentioned, CISA has just introduced a brand new cybersecurity awareness program called Secure Our World. I would like to thank the National Cybersecurity Alliance for their time, expertise, and feedback in the development of the program. This program's enduring message is that we all have a role to play, and that we all have actions we can take every day to make sure we are protecting ourselves, our families, friends, businesses, employees, customers, and the many organizations that keep the nation running from those who wish to do us harm. Secure Our World encourages Americans to develop better, continuous cybersecurity habits with an emphasis on individuals, families, and small to medium businesses. Secure Our World underscores how individuals can do their part to secure our accounts, to secure our families, and secure our businesses. This campaign also looks at technology and software developers to secure our products by developing innately cybersecure merchandise to be secure by design to better protect the nation. And Secure Our World will be incorporated into all CISA's future awareness campaigns and initiatives and will remain a consistent theme of this month and future Cybersecurity Awareness Month efforts. During this year's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, through the Secure Our World program, CISA and NCA will encourage individuals, families, small to medium businesses, and tech providers to adopt improved and ongoing cybersecurity habits. Building off last year's 4 critical cyber hygiene habits, this year's Cybersecurity Awareness Month echoes these 4 simple steps that everyone can take to improve their cybersecurity efforts through the following actions. First, use strong passwords and a password manager. We know that strong passwords are critical to protecting data. These are passwords that are long, random, unique, and include all 4 character types, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and signals. Password managers are a powerful tool to help us create these long, random, and unique passwords for each account and make storing passwords and user IDs easy. Second, enable multi-factor authentication. We know we need more than a password to protect our online accounts, and enabling MFA makes us significantly less likely to get hacked. Enable multi-factor authentication on all accounts that offer it, especially email, social media, and financial accounts, and use authentication apps or hardware tokens for added security. Third, recognize or report phishing. Phishing emails, texts, and calls are the #1 method of data compromise. Be cautious of unsolicited emails, texts, or calls asking for personal information. Avoid sharing sensitive information or credentials over the phone or email unless necessary. And don't click on links or attachments sent from unknown sources. I can guarantee you nobody is going to send you $1 million via email. Verify the authenticity of requests by contacting the individual or organization through a trusted channel. Report phishing attempts to the appropriate authorities or IT departments. And fourth, update your software. We all need to ensure our software is up to date. Enable automatic updates on devices and software to ensure timely security patches. Regularly check for updates manually if automatic updates are not available or enabled. And keep operating systems, antivirus software, web browsers, and applications up to date. Going forward, we know that cyber threats have and will become more sophisticated and pervasive. Cybersecurity Awareness Month will need to adapt to address new challenges, such as AI-driven attacks, quantum computing vulnerabilities, and the security implications of emerging technologies. I see the IT industry incorporating new secure by design practices, as some of them are starting to do now, so we have confidence that the IT products we receive as customers and consumers are safe right out of the box, and those with the least capability to protect themselves are no longer the first line of defense against bad actors. In the future, international cooperation will become even more critical as cyber threats continue to transcend borders. We will look for Cybersecurity Awareness Month to help unite governments, educational institutions, and businesses worldwide to promote cyber best practices and joint efforts to combat cybercrime. Over time, I believe Cybersecurity Awareness Month will be at the center of an ongoing conversation and shift in behavior, where cybersecurity is not viewed as a priority only for IT professionals and agencies, but an integral part of everyday life for all. The future of Cybersecurity Awareness Month is bright and dynamic. I believe it will continue to play a vital role in shaping a safer digital world by adapting to emerging challenges, fostering global collaboration, promoting education and awareness, and encouraging a culture of cybersecurity vigilance. As technology advances, Cybersecurity will and must remain at the forefront of safeguarding the digital realm for generations to come. Its ongoing success lies in its ability to raise awareness, foster collaboration, and provide practical tools and resources to empower everybody in the continued battle for a safer digital world. Thank you for being part of this important effort and being a voice over the last 20 years for better online practices, because without those of you at the forefront of cybersecurity best practices, we can't keep up with the cyber criminals alone. CISA's great partnership with the private sector and state, local, tribal, territorial governments is reflective of the progress we've made. We look forward to at least another 20 years of that progress, and let's all take action to secure our world. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you very much, Nitin. It's good to see you today. And I'm glad to know that's not you trying to send me $1 million via email. Now I'd like to welcome Drennan Dudley, Office of the National Cyber Director. And just a note, in a few minutes here during her presentation, we're probably all going to get a national emergency alert notification. If you've been watching the news, you've heard this is going to happen. It's not a part of her presentation. We're not having some type of cyber alert, but we'll all pause when that happens. Drennan, welcome.
Hello, Lisa. Thank you very much for that introduction, and also for the alert to everybody that, yes, we're not sounding an alarm. In fact, I really appreciated the Deputy Director's comments right now, or that he just had, about such a bright future in cybersecurity. And I really look forward to the next 20 years with all of you. And congratulations to CISA on the launch of the new awareness campaign, Secure Our World. Congratulations to them for that. It's such a pleasure to be here today with such a distinguished lineup. And it's also really appropriate to be with the National Cybersecurity Alliance in this 20th annual National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, where it's all about driving government and private sector partnerships, which are so important, and the only way we're going to create a more secure and interconnected world. And as we reflect on how far we've come in the 20 years and looking forward to the bright 20 years that we have to come, I'm really thrilled to talk to you about how President Biden has driven cybersecurity and a really affirmative vision for cyberspace through the Office of the National Cyber Director. You know, just 2 short years that we have been convened here, and we've been really proud at the Office of the National Cyber Director's office to team up with to team up with everyone, most of the folks on this phone, if not all of you, to drive some really big and strategic ideas. It's probably not lost on any of you that we published the National Cybersecurity Strategy with the President's vision in March of this year. It really calls for an affirmative vision, which we're very excited to carry forward, you know, thinking that is opportunity-oriented and not so threat-centric approach. 2 major strategic shifts that are outlined in the National Cybersecurity Strategy that will help get us to that place, that forward-thinking, opportunity-oriented space. Many of you have heard us talk about before, and again, pleased to be partnering with you on making sure that those 2 shifts come about in a really dynamic way over the next 10 years. And those 2 shifts are the responsibility of managing cybersecurity risk and taking it from the entities that can least bear it and placing it on those who are most capable of preventing harm in cybersecurity space. And also, as a budgeteer for most of my career, really excited that our second big shift is thinking about how we make sure that our incentives really favor long-term investments in resilience, as opposed to doing those short, quick fixes that often just have us paying for cybersecurity and resilience over and over and over again. As I've talked about, you know, the President is driving our vision. We at ONCD are happy to be, you know, oh, here we go, the alert. I'll pause for 1 second during the alert. All right, I think we can resume now after a little bit of our testing our emergency alert system, which is also a very important activity to have happened. So thanks for bearing with us with that. I was talking about the 2 strategic shifts that are outlined in the National Cybersecurity Strategy. Most of them you have heard about. But as I was talking about that, I really want to emphasize that the president doesn't do this alone. We don't do this alone. Sorry, one more alert. Apologize for that. We had over, sorry, 1 second. We had, thank you for your patience on that. The president doesn't do any of this alone. The Office of the National Cybersecurity Director does not do any of this alone. Really, as we were developing the National Cybersecurity Strategy, there were over 300 engagements. Again, most of you on this call were great partners with us. You provided us insights from industry, from civil society. We couldn't have written this strategy without you. It's a better strategy because of your efforts, and we thank you for that. It's all a group effort. In the development of the strategy, we also had departments and agencies at the table with us. Their expertise in this country is undeniable and made such a strong strategy that led us to even additional work that came after that. 5 short months after the National Cybersecurity Strategy, as you all know, and hopefully have had some time we produced the National Cyber Workforce and Education Strategy that was published in July. It's just another example of some big strategic thinking that we have done alongside all of you to make sure that we're paving an excellent path for an affirmative vision in cyberspace. So the development and implementation of the workforce and education strategy has followed the same sort of pattern of the National Cybersecurity Strategy, and that is, let's put everybody at the table together, hear the big ideas, and then make sure that we find an excellent way to get them all implemented. Doubling down kind of on the collaboration theme, the 3 guiding principles in the workforce and education strategy are really leveraging collaborative workforce development ecosystems to meet the cyber workforce demand. That means industry sitting at the table with educators, at the table with would-be students, and government to make sure that we're all talking together about what that demand actually is and how we accomplish meeting it. We also love to say that as a guiding principle of this strategy, that we're enabling the lifelong pursuit of cyber skills. Shouldn't be lost on anybody as the cyberspace continues to evolve, and also, and importantly, strengthening the cyber workforce by greater diversity and inclusion, which is absolutely critical. All of those, leveraging those 3 big principles, will provide good paying middle-class jobs for cybersecurity, also empowering not only workers, but also educators and employers to work together, collaborate in that ecosystem so that we get what we need. Will then be, and perfectly apropos to Awareness Month, equipping all Americans and every American with cyber skills as they need, and the cyber skills that they need to thrive in this interconnected world. This group is great at amplifying strong positive messages. So one other thing I would just like to really emphasize as a part of the workforce strategy is 3 things that we're sort of asking everyone to consider as we implement all of the good ideas. And that is reconsidering the 4-year educational requirements, really making a commitment to that diverse workforce I talked about, and also ongoing workforce training. As we all know, we can stay sharp on our skills, and keeping that training available to all employees is really important for that. I've spent some time reviewing the big ideas that all of us have worked together to make sure that they get implemented. In the next coming months, we'll be focusing on really making sure that we are figuring out a way to talk clearly about the implementation of the big ideas. And so in the interest of time, I'll just quickly go through a few of what we'll be doing in the coming months to make that happen. If you haven't spent much time with the National Cybersecurity Implementation Plan, I encourage you to do so. It might look a bit like a spreadsheet that then got turned into a responsible document that really outlines 69 initiatives. Each of those initiatives, you'll see an action item, you'll see one responsible agency that we're sort of holding accountable for making sure that the work gets done. You'll see a timeline for completion sometime over the next 2 fiscal years. And why do I spend a little bit of time going through the tedious details? It's because that's what we'll be doing for the coming months, is working with the 18 entities and federal agencies that are charged with those initiatives in the implementation plan. so that we make sure that we get it completed. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that implementing those 69 initiatives will accomplish the strategy that we really see enduring over the next 10 years. It's really just sort of our down payment on making sure that those most pressing items that needed executive level attention get the attention that they need, but it'll be a very iterative process as some work gets accomplished and we need to move on to the next items to make sure that over those next 10 years, the president's affirmative vision is really realized. You'll also probably know that we put out recently some requests for information. This is in furtherance of implementation of the national strategy as well. If you go to regulation.com, you'll see that we have 2 items there. One, we're pursuing requests for information on regulatory harmonization. We ask for your comments back on that by October 31st. So before you dress up and go out for Halloween, we hope that you will make sure that you give us some good, thoughtful comments on regulatory harmonization. We also have a request for information out on open source software security. Those comments we ask back by November 8th. And we really do look forward to the wisdom and insights of everyone here today to make sure that we continue to really implement and figure out great ways to forward the hard work, because it's really, these are examples that I'm giving you of work that's not just living on paper. We're being actionable, clear, and measurable in how we accomplish really big ideas. And it is, we'll just double down on what the deputy director just said. I think the future is bright for cybersecurity. We really want to make sure that our digital ecosystem is more defensible, that it is resilient, that it's aligned with the values that we want to pursue. And we're not doing this just for the sake of cybersecurity. We're doing this so that we have an environment that we live in that is inclusive, that's diverse, that has a durable foundation to our whole ecosystem. And that really helps us accomplish our broader national goals and lets us all sort of thrive in an economic and prosperous way, and having a lot of fun online doing all of that. So I just want to say I'm really grateful for this very capable and dynamic group, all of the efforts that you have contributed to so far that we've been working on, and looking to the months that come for work that we have to do, but also maybe the next 20 years where we're continuing to make sure that we're moving cybersecurity forward for the sake of the nation and the livelihood of people. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Drennan. Appreciate all the comments and all your hard work. Now I'd like to welcome Senator Gary Peters of Michigan and Congressman Andrew Garbarino of New York and Eric Swalwell of California.
Hello, I'm U.S. Senator Gary Peters, and I am honored to join all of you to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Over the years, cyber attacks have become increasingly complex and common, and this threat is only going to grow. Anyone could be at risk of a cyber attack, from individuals and small businesses to the federal government and our critical infrastructure. And that's why I'm working hard as the chairman of the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee to introduce and pass significant cybersecurity reforms to protect Americans from online security threats. I've passed bipartisan legislation to better protect critical infrastructure from disruptive cyber attacks, modernize the federal government's approach to cybersecurity, and help K-12 schools protect their networks. This month and every month, we need to do our part to better protect our online spaces from hackers and ransomware attacks. As we commemorate this Cybersecurity Awareness Month, I urge you all to stay focused on keeping yourself safe online by using tools like multi-factor authentication, having unique passwords for every account, and ensuring that you are able to spot and report the latest phishing attacks. As the cyber landscape continues to change, it's important that we all follow security measures to protect our networks. So thank you to the National Cybersecurity Alliance support of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and thank you to those in the cybersecurity field. I appreciate the work that all of you do to help secure our systems and ensure that our nation's cybersecurity is prepared to combat any and all threats.
Hello, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you live, but I wanted to share a few thoughts with you as we enter Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Cybersecurity is national security. As chairman of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Protection Subcommittee, I know how vital it is to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity literacy across the nation. Increasingly aggressive cyber criminals and foreign adversaries threaten our security and our way of life. Individuals and organizations of all sizes must guard against these risks, from critical infrastructure operators to school districts. Our collective awareness of the risks alone will enable resilience and allow us to mitigate the impact of cyber attacks. The committee has been working closely with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, to strengthen our national cyber posture. CISA Director Jen Easterly has been a great partner as we work to enhance the cyber literacy of the nation, harmonize federal cybersecurity regulations, and ensure CISA's success as it matures as an agency. CISA offers a range of services and resources that help organizations and individuals prepare for and respond to cyber attacks. Its Shields Up initiative provides recommendations to increase organizational vigilance and keep stakeholders informed about cybersecurity threats. CISA also has regional offices which provide direct local support in communities across the country. My district falls in CISA Region 2, and the regional director there has joined me for multiple informational sessions to educate local organizations and municipalities on Long Island. They have even provided direct assistance to small businesses in my district in the wake of cyber attacks. Education is key when it comes to mitigating cyber risks. That's why this month and all year long, we must work to advance American cyber literacy and bolster our nation's critical infrastructure security and resilience. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity to join you in kicking off the 20th Annual National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Thank you to the National Cybersecurity Alliance for hosting this event, and thank you to CISA and the Office of the National Cyber Director for being here with us today. Every October, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month galvanizes government, the private sector, and the public to redouble their efforts to secure the digital ecosystem and stay safe online. It's also a time to reflect on how far we've come, and we've come a long way over the past 20 years. In that time, Congress has established the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, enacted a mandatory cyber incident reporting law, funded a cyber-specific grant program for state and local governments, and has authorized Cyber Sentry to expand visibility of malicious activity on the OT networks that we rely upon every day. Cybersecurity is a top priority at the White House with the creation of the Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technology and the appointment of a National Cybersecurity Advisor. The federal government has improved how it partners with the private sector through entities such as the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative, or JCDC, which I hope to authorize soon to ensure that its mission and focus and structure is able to provide enduring value. The JCDC is a key forum for enabling real-time sharing of actionable intelligence on cybersecurity threats, and I commend CISA's leadership for its creation. We've made enormous progress, but I look forward to continuing to build upon it as we move forward this Congress. And the one thing that has not changed over the past 2 decades is that cybersecurity remains a bipartisan issue. As ranking member of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Protection Committee, I see it firsthand. Chairman Garbarino and I recognize that collaboration is the key to progress. We are committed to working together to make sure that CISA is positioned to help defend federal networks and provide critical infrastructure owners and operators with the tools they need to prevent cyber attacks. We know our adversaries' tradecraft is evolving quickly. They're becoming bolder, more sophisticated, more capable, and can hit more companies, not just the giants, but small and medium-sized companies too. And we know that Congress has to remain bipartisan in its efforts to accelerate our efforts to stop these threats. That means providing CISA sufficient appropriations on a predictable schedule, the authorities it needs to carry out its mission, and the necessary oversight to ensure it's achieving its security goals. It also means that we must use the knowledge we have as members of Congress to connect small and medium-sized entities in our districts with the cybersecurity resources available. Later this month, in that spirit, I'll be hosting a cybersecurity summit in my district in California's East Bay that'll do just that. We're going to bring together federal government professionals, private sector experts, and critical infrastructure operators to present the full picture of cybersecurity preparedness to my constituents. I hope our summit serves as a model for all members of Congress to bring the immense cybersecurity expertise of the public and private sector home to their communities. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for your opportunity to participate in today's event. Here's to a successful 20 years of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and I look forward to working with you all as we take on these challenges in the future.
So now I would like to invite our panelists join in and turn on their cameras so we can see who they are. Tatiana, Joanna, Mega, Bobby, and Rusty. So can you believe we're ringing in our 20th Cybersecurity Awareness Month? I can't, because I see all the hard work that's done by people on this stage and all of you in the audience year after year. We think it's important to take a moment and reflect on how far we've come in engaging the public and raising awareness about security and privacy issues. We all know there's more work to do, and that awareness does not necessarily equal action. So how do we approach the future of cybersecurity awareness? Our panelists today will discuss the biggest challenges we face right now, from weak passwords to the sudden widespread use of AI, as well as what they think the trends will be to look out over for over the next couple of decades, the next 20 years. So I'm going to introduce you each by name and company. People can see your titles here, but if you want to reiterate for us what it is you do at your respective organizations, that would be great. So I want to welcome Tatiana Bolton from Google. Joanna Heisman from KnowBe4.
Hi, everyone. So I lead at KnowBe4 Strategic Insights and Research. So I'm the lead author on two of our biggest research papers, which are the Phishing Industry Benchmark Report and the Security Culture Report, and happy to be here with you all.
Tatiana, sorry, I cut you off earlier.
No, it's fine. I thought you were just going through us all. Nice to see you. Thank you for having me. I lead cybersecurity policy at Google for connected device security, cyber workforce, and secure by default, a number of different issues. So happy to be here with you all.
Thanks for joining us. Mega from Amazon, Mega Malhotra.
Hi, happy to be here. Hello, everybody. Hope that text message was as alarming and as awakening as for me. I was like, I knew it, but you know it, but then you still don't expect it to be that loud. So hello, everyone. My name is Megha Malhotra. I'm the senior TPM here at Amazon, and I run I think I'm going to say about 5 internal focused security programs, and happy to share my 2 cents, and lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Sempley from Dell. Oh, we can't hear you. Or is it just me? I think we're having a problem with your audio. You keep talking, then I can tell you whether or not we can hear you. Probably having to switch mics. Nope, still can't hear you.
Okay,
Oh,
hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
All right.
You're
Yes, I tested everything beforehand too, but oh well. Bobby Sempley, Business Unit Security Officer at Dell Technologies. Really looking forward to today's conversation and engagement.
And Rusty Waldron from ADP.
Hey, Lisa and everybody, thanks. Yeah, Rusty Waldron, Chief Business Security Officer at ADP, and very much looking forward to celebrating with you guys today and having a little conversation.
So we're going to start off by continuing our conversation around the 20 years of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So this year, it's 20 years. We had a big party a couple weeks ago, and we're going to be celebrating, I think, all month long. What are some of the biggest behavioral improvements that you've noticed in the general public when it comes to staying safe online since you've entered the industry? Most of us haven't been in this industry for 20 years. Tatiana, we'll start with you.
Sure. So, I think that there has been a significant shift among the population, and it's for a number of different reasons. I think one, that there's been a significant amount of cyber attacks, and I think that has raised the awareness of the threat and the types of actual, like, real life impacts they can have on average everyday Americans. We've also seen a concerted effort on the parts of government, private industry, and nonprofits like yourselves to really inform citizens, and that has, I think, has improved the cybersecurity awareness significantly. People, back 20 years ago, I think we were having conversations about just using passwords, right? Protecting yourself online, even in the most basic of ways. Now we're moving that conversation, just as an example, towards, two-factor authentication and password managers. And at Google, actually, we're moving sort of even away from password, moving to pass keys, right? Trying to think of what a passwordless future can look like. So, I think there's been a significant shift, and I'm happy to see it. And I think there's a lot more to do, but, the CISA PSA and all of the work they've been doing, I think, has been tremendous. And I think obviously the Security Month has also led to a lot of awareness across the world.
Any more thoughts in addition to being passwordless on where you'd like to see some further changes and improvements in the future?
I think that there's a number of things we can do. I think right now the conversation revolves a lot around operations and information sharing and improving all of that. I think what we need to think about is also how we can improve product security. And I think, obviously a lot of that we want to take on as the companies to make it easier for consumers to sort of take that in. I think another place is workforce. I think we need to continue talking about that and continue elevating the profession of cybersecurity, making sure people know about it, and so that we can get more people in, so that we can have more professionals who talk about this on a day-to-day basis and encourage others to join.
Anybody else want to chime in on what kind of behavioral improvements they've seen over the last 20 years or during their career? Nobody? Or what we'd like to see more or less of in the future, improvements in the future?
Yeah, I'll certainly jump in there. So I think listen, being the mother of, two boys, one in college and one in high school, I know that throughout their education, they haven't had, enough, awareness, given to them about, the handheld devices that they have, and, how to, use technology to their benefit and how to stay safe and so forth. And so I've seen improvements in the K through 12 and also in higher education, but I think there needs to be more rigor. And I also think that there needs to be more defined curriculum that is required versus something that, is just optionally delivered. And so I think that that's something that I definitely would like to see more of.
Yeah, I think that that kind of awareness from early in life through your entire stages of life just improves our overall digital literacy and ability to operate in safe and secure manners online. And I think that's really important. Like Tatiana's comment, we're really trying to figure out what a passwordless future looks like. And so, how do we think about creating technologies that require authentication in a way that doesn't require passwords for that authentication, which opens up a whole range of security benefits, but also usability and accessibility benefits as well.
Rusty, did you want to add to that?
Oh, absolutely. I think those comments are fantastic. And what I've really seen as an improvement is when you think about the 20 years and this messaging that we've been doing, that a lot of the older generation too has actually really embraced this. I'm not sure if any of you are the IT professional in the family, but I get regular phone calls from my friends and family going, "Hey, is this phishing? Is this something I should be aware of?" To me, that when people make it very human and very personal and they can recognize it, even if it's very sophisticated, that's a win. And I think that's really what the messaging in the organization has done over the last 20 years, has really made it part of the culture. I agree that we need to train younger our younger generations maybe sooner because they, a little more susceptible. But I'm really proud of what's really happened with the older generations and really their ability to adapt.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gotten to be more of a dinner table conversation over the past couple of decades. So we just published our OBehave report, our annual cybersecurity behaviors and attitude report. 93% of the people who participated said they're online daily, which is not surprising. Unfortunately, 37% of people who were part of the survey also reported feeling intimidated by cybersecurity. In the past few years, we've seen so many new challenges, such as the widespread use of AI. It's become a really hot topic in cybersecurity. So all of these rising threats, and especially deepfakes, things like that, can really cause people anxiety and make people feel overwhelmed. So how can we help people feel empowered when it comes to keeping themselves safe online? Joanna, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. And I think Rusty just hit on it, right? So part of it is the making it real and relevant for individuals, right? So we talk about security in a language that other people may not understand. Many don't understand. And it's somewhat frightening, right? And so I think, we're long past the guy with the hoodie, right? I think that, we need to look at other ways of connecting with, the people that we're trying to meet and trying to kind of raise that readiness. I think also, and listen, I'm not going to say anything new. I'm not going to say anything sexy, but I think that it's, getting back to the foundational stuff, right? And so if you talk to any sports coach, they'll tell you, football, it's blocking and tackling. And, so I think that, we just need to, keep communication open and make sure that people know, listen, keep your privacy settings on, change your passwords, make sure that your internet connections are secure. Don't click on stuff. Don't use Wi-Fi's that you're not familiar with. Use your VPNs, use multi-factor. So it's reminding people continuously from the moment they enter the workforce, right, throughout their tenure there. And it's not event-based. It can't be event-based. And when I was at Gartner, I did a lot of research about this. And listen, October is great. This is a fantastic month, but it's got to go beyond October. It's got to be something that's focused on year round. And it's got to be personalized.
We're really glad that CISA's new campaign is going to be evergreen and be a year-round campaign. We're super excited about that. Anybody else want to chime in on how we can bring down people's level of anxiety when it comes to engaging in more secure behaviors? Because if something makes you feel anxious and intimidated, you're probably not going to engage with it. You're probably not going to take any action. So any more thoughts on how we can approach that?
I think Joanna, one of the comments that Joanna made is really important, and that is the language that we use needs to be accessible to the audience we're talking to, and that's been a big part of this 20-year journey here, but it needs to be a part of our future as well, particularly with the new threats and new technologies that exist and how that's going to impact individuals. The pace of change isn't going to slow down, right? We are at the slowest point of the future today. And so really thinking about how we discuss what needs to be done, I think is an important obligation as security professionals that we have to take.
Yeah, and I do think we have some challenges still, because even as security professionals, right, like we use a number of different words to describe something similar. So two-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, 2SV, right? Like, so we have to find ways to really narrow down that message. And it's hard because there's so many different types of technologies, right? Like, what do we want to recommend? Is it multi-factor or is it two-factor? Or are we going to recommend text-based 2FA, or is that bad, right? And so I think there's still some challenges there, but honestly, I think that speaks to my workforce point earlier. We need more communications professionals in cybersecurity so that we can also know how to talk to people. So we need more behavioral specialists so that we can understand what the public what resonates with the public, and then what in particular segments of the public, and personalize it for messages for those particular segments.
Yeah, I heartily agree with everything you said there, Gianna. That's really our sweet spot too, is making sure we put out materials not just for the general public to appeal to people from all age groups and all walks of life, but also feeding those communication professionals who work within security teams. Any other thoughts?
Like kids versus like the older generation, I mean, if you're trying to talk to both of them in the same way, you're not going to get through.
Right. Yeah, you're missing them. Absolutely.
I'd love to add to that because that point is great, right? And so it's also from a communication perspective, we're trying to pull the employee, the audience to the messaging, and we've got to actually find out where these employees and this audience, where are they gathering? Where do we need to drop our communications and frequently across our digital environment to make sure that they're receiving them? Right? We can't just wait for them because they're not waiting for our messaging. We have to, put it places where they can see it in language that makes sense to them.
Yeah, I just hope the next new thing, like MFA, that we let the marketers name it instead of the technologists, that it's got a better name that resonates, that means something to people like my mom and my kids. Go ahead, Rusty.
Oh yeah, and Joanna, to your point, and Tatiana, like how do you keep it simple, right? So like even novices can generally do the text-based authentication. While that's not ideal, it's something that they know, and I think that's really the piece that to me has turned the corner, probably even in just the last couple of years, is really that that ease of use and that accessibility. Making things intuitive. I also think we've got a journey ahead of us in that space, because the easier we make it, that starts to drive the fear away. Because really, most of our insecurities around this is really in the fact that we don't know what to do. And so if we can make that easy for people, give them the ability to correct things when they go wrong, because we're all going to make mistakes, right? But can we easily get around it? That's the real win here. And I think, again, that's really what the NCA of these programs and CISA have really been doing, is really setting those standards out there so that companies can be consistent and people can easily adapt.
Yeah, and just one last thing to add. I mean, and I think it's not just on the sort of the communications professionals, but I also do think there's, and I think CISA is right on this. They've said this. Jen Easterly has said this. There's also a piece of responsibility on the manufacturers and the people like Google, companies like Google, where we're putting out the products that people use to, secure themselves, like Google's, like Chrome's password manager, right? And it's on us to make that, and we try to do this, make it as easy as possible for the users to make the secure choices, right? We turned on MFA by default on Gmail, right? Recently. It's important to take those steps to take on as much of the security engineering burden for the organizations that have that engineering expertise, to make it easier for people as much as possible.
Yeah, I really applaud Google for doing that, especially because I'm the mother of some kids who use Gmail, and they probably weren't going to take the time to enable that themselves. So turning it on by default was fantastic. That was a great move. So Rusty, this as one of our board members. I'm going to start this next question with you. Part of our mission is to create partnerships with the private sector to educate people on how to protect ourselves, our families, and our organizations. How can corporations like ADP help to raise awareness of current and emerging cybersecurity threats and educate the public on how best to protect themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lisa. And I think this is corporations in general, regardless of the size of company, really have the greatest opportunity to be able to reinforce the messaging, right? So if you think about this, we have the ability to kind of amplify things amongst our own client base and our own employee base, right? So this really helps to create that stewardship, right? That I think all companies really strive to be good stewards of the community. And in the security world, I think we really have the ability to hit on those 4 pillars that Nitin was talking about earlier, of kind of strong passwords, the multi-factor aspect of that, really being able to report phishing, and kind of maintaining our own hygiene and things. That if we're doing that in people's daily lives. I mean, the majority of our lives are generally spent working or sleeping, right? So I can't do much in sleeping, but corporations can do a lot when it comes to kind of helping people kind of exercise those muscles. And hopefully they're taking that back into their personal lives and really starting to talk about it. And again, starting to remove that fear, right? I think that's such an important part of what we do as an organization, and in partnership with CISA and the NCA, like that's how we do this together.
Anybody else want to add to that? Megan, let's turn to you. And speaking of educating the public, Amazon has recently done a PSA campaign as well. As we learn more about the role of the human element in cybersecurity, the need for strong public and private partnerships has become more and more apparent. How could more collaboration between the public and private sectors help improve cybersecurity?
Yeah, love that question, because literally we're working on this behind the scenes. So to increase the collaborations, I would love to touch on some of the areas that we have been working on as well. So in my mind, cybersecurity is sort of like a team sport that requires communication, awareness, and reasonable transparency, so we can all learn from each other and iterate. Some events are often operational excellence, that could be a good miss, that can be shared at an abstracted level, and action items can be applied as best practices. The private sector honestly does this sometimes a little bit better as an individual contributor. Think of them as like an IC. And the public sector is more like a managerial level, organizational leader level, who can cascade all these best practices all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. So a good collaboration, there are a few ways that I think a good collaboration between public and private sector can definitely help enhance cybersecurity. So some of the ways that I think in my mind would make a lot of sense, and a lot of this stuff is we're working on as well, is number one, sharing some threat intelligence at different levels. So government agencies, they often have access to classified information or sensitive information about cyber threats, which us as private companies, we don't. However, we can help. We can contribute in real-time data for their networks. We can access that information and can build best practices based on it, can share our learnings. And this information can help both sectors stay informed about emerging threats and vulnerabilities. Second is leveraging each other's expertise. We know that private sector companies often possess very deep technical expertise in areas of cybersecurity, while the public sector can provide legal, regulatory frameworks that we are not excelled at. Collaborative efforts can can combine these strengths to develop comprehensive and very effective high-level, big-picture strategies. Another way would be policy development. Government agencies can definitely work with industry experts to create balanced and effective rules that can protect both national security as well as the business interests. Another way that I see is training and awareness, which is my favorite, because we spend a lot of time doing training and awareness, as well as research and innovation. So joint efforts can promote cybersecurity awareness and education initiatives. Amazon, in fact, recently announced 2 initiatives that can help protect against cyber attacks. One is security awareness training, which will be available for free for all the individuals and businesses. And second is AWS will offer a free MFA devices to customers, providing a more secure way to protect sensitive information. And lastly, is something which we at Amazon spend a lot of time thinking, is research and innovation. So we do a lot of great partnerships with government, and we do give a lot of grants and partnerships with other companies as well to develop cutting edge technologies and to offer and build solutions to counter cyber attacks and cyber threats. So I think the overall theme that I'm trying to allude towards is collaborative efforts, collaboration, talking, training. These efforts can extend internationally, promoting global cooperation, and can help combat cybercrime and ensuring a very, very secure digital environment for everyone, not just for private companies or people who understand it better. So I guess by combining our strengths with each other, by combining our resources with each other, we can definitely create a more resilient and secure digital ecosystem.
Anybody else like to chime in on public-private cooperation and collaboration?
Yeah, and I know Tatiana must have heard about all the Google initiatives that have been going on, and I'm pretty sure ADP has. I definitely know about Google, Meta, because those are always in the news. But I'm sure Rusty had some up his sleeve as well.
Yeah, we did. We just recently released a co-branded PSA, 4 of them, with CISA, which is very exciting for us. They focus on 4 different tips, including turning on multi-factor authentication, using strong passwords and a password manager, more specifically, think before you click, and then updating software, all of which are obviously key cybersecurity tips. But more generally, I think, Meg is totally right. There's things that the government is great at. There's things that users can do. But, as I mentioned before, at Google, we're really trying to think about in what ways we can make the process easier. And that is that we want that to be at least part of our contribution into the collaboration. How can we help to take the burden off of users to make sure that they're not, figuring out how not to get phished, but instead automatically building that that passkey into the system so that you get FIDO level compliant authentication, and you no longer get phished. Right. Gmail, for example, like we've had AI, we've built AI into some of our products, including Gmail, for the last 10 years. And because of it, we reduce spam by 99.9%. We block something like 100 million spam messages a day. So it's and we actually just released a new product feature where we're going to think about how to make spam even less prominent in Gmail. So, these are the ways that we can help. And I think, obviously we try to use our scale to make sure that all of our, billions of users all over our products and services are protected. And I think that's one of the best things that we can do when we're partnering with government and nonprofits.
And I think, Tatiana, y'all are blocking the 100 million that come to my email account every day.
We sure try.
It can sometimes be a challenge. And if you think about the world that ADP fits in, while you guys are very much on the public-facing side of security, I mean, we touch people in a place that can deeply affect their lives, right? I mean, we're managing payroll, and you are not surprised at how personal that becomes. And I think where we really take a lot of pride, not only for ourselves, but in our industry, is how we partner with these companies and the processes that are actually evolving to help protect people, whether or not it's in kind of that awareness forum, or whether or not it's new ways to secure communications or verify identity. We've really got to be top of mind on that, because what we're ultimately protecting is something that is most personal to most people. And so we take that kind of very personally, and want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help our clients and our customers, but also the industry as a whole, right? Because it's payroll's again just a very personal thing. So we strive hard for that.
Lisa, I'd like to take a sort of a trend line perspective here, right? When I think about the 20 years of public-private partnerships and sort of where we started, where we are today, and what's next, I really find that we spent a long time in the early days sort of entrenched in vocabulary challenges. What do we mean by information sharing? How do we think about threats? What does all of that look like? And I've been incredibly impressed with the the rapid pace of movement we've had over the last 5 years or so, of moving just from information sharing as the sort of thing that the collaboration is and partnership is about, to really collaboration in operational ways, in planning constructs across levels of governments in ways that I haven't that I don't think I imagined 18 or 20 years ago. And so, if I take a look back, I have a pretty positive perspective of the trajectory. What I think the opportunity for us going forward is really about how do we actuate that, not just at the federal level, but at all levels of government and across a broader swath of the private sector in each of these areas. And that's scale is obviously the challenge, but I think we're sort of at a tipping point where that's a possibility now, whereas 10 years ago it probably wasn't in sort of the same ways.
Yeah, I just want to plus one to that, Bobby. I mean, definitely a lot of improvement on the operational collaboration side, and what we mean by information sharing, and like JCDC and CISA, obviously. But I will say, I think we can take it even a step further, right? Like a lot of that focus is, as I was mentioning before, on the after the hack part. What we'd like to see is also more of a focus on the product security part. How do we prevent the hacks in the first place, right? The last month we saw like 3 major hacks, and it was pretty significant, and so and we want to try to block those as much as we can, and product security, the secure by default work that's coming out of CISA, and obviously the SSDF at NIST, and then the zero trust models that I think have really taken hold. I think all of that is working together to allow us to collaborate, and hopefully more between government, private sector, and the nonprofit think tank community on how we can prevent the product vulnerabilities in the first place, because there are ways to do that. The Chromebooks, for example, have never had a ransomware attack, right? So it's not that's a given. Phishing, not a given. We haven't experienced phishing on our enterprise platform or within the Google network for 10 years. So it's not a given. So we know that there are ways to secure the enterprise, and we want to partner with everyone in the ecosystem to share that expertise and find ways to improve the product side before the hacks as well as after.
And I think the thing that has really transformed in the last several years around that are the publications, right? The NIST publications around SSDF and around the work that ISPAB has done, the work CISA has done, to really be more clear about what they mean and what we mean on the private sector side. That really enables us to go through that. What I'm really looking forward to is how we apply the lessons of, talking about vocabulary, figuring out how we do joint planning and execution, how we compress the time frame of getting through that process, because we've gone through it before in other areas. And I think that for me is the positive opportunity ahead.
Maybe AI can figure that out for us.
That's the answer to everything these days.
Yeah, exactly. So as we know, in cybersecurity, there are always new threats as well as new improvements. It's moving very quickly, and things seem to develop day by day. What are some potential trends, both good and bad, that you believe could emerge in the future? And Bobby, we're gonna stick with you. We're gonna go back to you for a moment. What sort of trends do you think we could be looking at down the road, good or bad?
I love the get out your crystal ball and imagine what tomorrow will look like.
No panel would be complete without a crystal ball question. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I love it a little bit, because when I think about the world that we live in, particularly in combating threats in cybersecurity, we're oftentimes combating new threats at the same time as we're combating 10-year-old threats as well, right? It's just the nature of the beast here. So Clearly, volume is there and will continue. So many of the things that exist in enterprises today are likely to continue to exist going forward. The ability for us to impact their success, I think, is really one of the great places where a lot of innovation has occurred. You've heard Tatiana talk about some of those activities. It's not that people aren't trying to spam; it's that we're not delivering that to the end users in that space. I think in this, as we've seen the ransomware realities of the last several years and going forward, it really reinforces the importance of the data itself. We've got a long history of protecting the containers and the environments and the transports, but the reinforcement of how important the data is and the understanding of the things that we need to do in order to protect it, I think is really needs to be top of mind for professionals today and going forward, particularly in an AI fueled future, right? That data is of even more paramount as we're talking about how we intend to use it in any range of automation capabilities. What I actually think is most true about the future is that it's going to be more complex than today. And that, I think, is an unfortunate reality for security, because at least certainly when we talk to our community at Dell, we have an innovation index that we go out and ask questions about. Complexity of the environment is really top of mind for most professionals. Something like 42% don't feel like they're ready to handle the complexity of today and of the future. And that's a pretty scary number if you think about that world, because the attack surface, it tends to be in the seams of things. And I think that becomes a very real area for us to need to continue to focus on. We talked about AI a little bit here. I think, well, no conversation on cybersecurity would be complete without saying it's going to make some things better and it's going to make some things worse. And our sort of opportunity here is to try to ensure that it makes more things better than it makes things worse for the adversary, right? A set of new attack surfaces are coming along, but really the opportunity to change the dynamic around how products are developed, to change the dynamic around how users are engaged with, whether they be consumers or enterprise users, to understand what they should and shouldn't do, and changing the dynamic around how we build and architect systems, because we know more and we can apply that knowledge in a more ready way, in a more quick manner, I think is really the opportunity space there. I'm gonna use Joanna's language. What I'm about to say next isn't sexy, but is true, and that is the fundamentals are going to remain important. We're going to make a lot of things, or we're making lots of things easier in the environment. But that doesn't mean that basic management of your technology isn't still going to be an incredibly important function that all individuals need to understand. Basic digital literacy and how you use your environment and know what is the more secure way of doing something versus a less secure way of doing something isn't also going to be something that we're going to continue to need users to understand going forward. And none of that is, like I said, none of that is like super exciting. It's not training a new model or talking about the latest quantum safe solutions, but it will remain an important part of our future. Not to end on a down note.
Anybody else want to look in their crystal ball and give us their predictions for trends, good or bad, for the future?
I'd like to add on to Bobby's just a little bit, because I think that I agree with everything that she shared. And the piece that I think is the challenge in the near future is both the speed and the quality of the threats that we're seeing is continuing to accelerate, right? And a lot of that is because of automation, because of the ability to quickly ramp up infrastructure, or even the large language models or the AI that's out there that I don't know if you guys have seen this lately, but the phishing emails, the grammar has greatly improved recently. And I think that, and when you start thinking globally, right, that's now not just in English, that's in any language, right? So even some of the speed at which everything moves is really going to be a challenge, both for the evolution of how we protect the environment and the controls. But I think it's going to double down on what Bobby was saying, that it's really that human element that's still the component there, understanding what you have and how you can react. That's really going to be, even if the speed on both the offense and defense are working in parallel, it really is going to be up to us to be able to recognize it and be able to protect ourselves and to kind of evolve as things go.
Any other predictions? Let's talk a little bit about security culture. A lot of us who've worked in training and awareness, or who run Cybersecurity Awareness Month activities in our organizations, trying to raise awareness. That's one of the things we're trying to influence is our organization culture. Let's talk about a little bit about what have the big successes been. Do you see the US, for example, promoting a more secure culture around the world? Joanna, let's start with you.
Let me get off.
You're on mute.
We've got a lot of opinions on this particular topic.
Yes, that's why I asked you first.
So, you know, at KnowBe4, we've certainly been focused on this for quite a long time, right? In 2019, we acquired the leading culture, security culture company in the world, and we've kind of brought it into the KnowBe4 family, and we've leveraged a lot of the kind of the science behind the data to actually start to make it more of kind of common language, right? And so I think there's a couple things going on. I think that we're easily able to define what it is, right? And so for a period of time, security culture had been confused with organizational culture. Organizational culture is more on kind of the values and goals. Security culture is more on the ideas, the customs, the social behaviors, all that kind of stuff that influences security. And so we've been able to define it. And then we've been able to kind of tag dimensions on what it means to be in a company that is more security culture ready, right? And so I think that's been certainly helpful. And, you know, when you start to break it down for your audience and they start to better understand what their specific roles and responsibilities are to making the company more secure. And oh, by the way, 100% of this stuff is transferable to your personal life. Therefore, you're making your friends, family, loved ones more secure as well. It starts to become, again, we've talked about it, a lot more personalized. I also think that we've given, you know, the community tools, right? And so, you know, proficiency assessments, you know, that can show you, you know, the gaps within your organization and how security ready certain individuals are right across your organization. And then we've provided, you know, security culture surveys and indexes where you can see, you know, how security ready is your organization and are you driving a culture that supports this? But one of the critical elements to this is that it's from day one. Right. And so if you think that you're just going to say, I've got you know, a culture that is more security ready, you know, that's a big statement if you haven't been doing the work. And the work starts the day that employees enter the organization, right? And so are they coming into a company that values this, that supports, that invests, that encourages that personal responsibility? And, you know, is it at all levels of the organization? Is everyone accountable and is everybody role modeling? And so although the conversation has started, and I believe that we've set an appropriate kind of definition and a path to move forward, I think we're still at the beginning, right? And so it's nice to talk about, right? Like lots of things are nice to talk about. It's, you know, it's great for me to talk about that I, you know, exercise every day and I'm at the gym, but is that a reality? I probably would say no, right? And so it's kind of looking at it in those terms. Are they actually practicing it versus is it something that they're just talking about?
Any other comments about creating a culture of security?
One of the things that I think is certainly we focus a great deal on at Dell is recognizing that the team members we're talking to are whole people, right? And so when we talk about our Security Awareness Month activities, it's not just about the behavior we expect from them at work. It's about the behavior we expect from them, right? It's about the behavior we think is appropriate in terms of being a digital citizen. And so our training includes, components that are, okay, now how would I think about this at home? Well, how would I think about this in the rest of my life? And I think that really can be very helpful, because if you can address the person, then that learning applies in all stages and helps to reinforce the culture of the organization as well, because we're giving them something, both value in their professional life, but a value in their personal life.
And I've been seeing that, Bobby, right? And so as you
Yep.
can imagine, we at KnowBe4 do a ton of speaking engagements during the month of October. Just between yesterday and today, I've done 5, right? And the topics that I've been requested to speak on the most are, how to keep your family safe online,
Right.
how to keep your kids safe online, cyberbullying, romance scams, right? It's all these things that connect to that human component that you're talking about. Yeah.
And your question about outside the US is also equally important, because we translate all of our training into native languages. And so that also makes it much more accessible to team members in other countries. It's not, it is it impacts them, and they can receive it in a way that's much more accessible.
Yeah, +1 to the international piece. With our Be Internet Awesome campaign, we have that across the world in many different languages. And I think that's been a really great way for people to interact in an easy way to learn more about cybersecurity and cyber safety. I think that generally we need to do more of that. We also have things like the Khan Academy, as I mentioned before, like things like moving to passkeys, the play protect stuff. Trying to make it easier for users. And the last thing I'll say is I'm a really big proponent of education and making sure that all of the things that we're teaching are started very early. I think education in the K-12 space is critical. I think we need to figure out how to build that, and Bobby is I think also a big proponent of this, the curriculum into and across the U.S., making sure that we have teachers that are ready and are trained, and that we don't make it a burden for them either, because they're already overworked and it's hard, and we're asking them, to be kind of the frontline defense and training for our students. But it's really important, because the earlier they learn it, the safer they are, and you're preventing things like cyberbullying, and you're preventing things like them learning bad habits, which obviously, as we all know, bad habits harder to break than not start them in the first place. So, I think it's really important from the very, very early stages to do that. I mean, I know this from personal experience. I have 4 kids. 2 of them I watched very sadly, tragically choose extremely poor passwords at school. And then I had to spend hours of my time trying to figure out how to connect to the teacher to get them to change that password, and to ask them what kind of training do you have? Do you have tools and resources to be able to give that input to the kids, so that they're actually starting off on a strong foot, right? Do they know how to do it? One of the things we actually recently worked on is a guidebook for K-12 schools, because it's it is a particular environment, and it's difficult. Even authentication is different between the guidelines are different from students to younger students, older students, staff, and administrators, right? The IT administrators at school are should have as strong of security as any other administrators for any other large network or system. They need to have tools and resources, and we need to make it easier for them.
We're going to turn to some questions right now, and we have one question from the audience that kind of touches on some of the things we've talked about, but one that we haven't addressed specifically. So this person writes, do you find it more challenging to drive awareness to family members and children as opposed to a company's workforce? We've talked a little bit about talking about your personal life when we give training to employees, but how do we get them to then spread that to their family members and children? And he also asked, what are your thoughts on ways to train children on best practices? This is something that, like you've already mentioned, when my kids were given their first device at school, our school district was very early to give iPads to all the kids, and that came with absolutely no security advice with it. And took years for them to even do things like block things at the proxy that kids shouldn't be able to get to at school. And that was after conversations with the principal and a school board member and things like that. So what are some of those ways that we can train children earlier, and what are some of the best practices to train children and to propagate this message to people that aren't in the workforce, that are either younger or retired?
I'll jump in here. I think, Lisa, you hit it right. And so I think our problem is a lot greater than we think of it, right? And so I was raised by Greek immigrants who were in their late 80s who never used technology. We give my parents a flip phone for emergency. I'm not very certain that they actually know how to use it. And so therefore, did they teach me? No, but sheer nature of the work that I do, I'm able to pass along some nuggets of knowledge to my kids and my family and my friends. However, I talk to my friends, they don't have a clue what they're doing. And then they're raising a generation of kids who we weaponize with these handheld devices, right? And so I think part of it is, right, so that education at an early age, but I think we need to focus also on kind of my generation, right? So those generations of parents out there really who never got what they needed in order to best position their kids for success and to stay safe, right? So I think I look at it in those terms, just based on my life.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I love that. I want to add a little bit of perspective from an immigrant parent perspective. So my father is an immigrant and still not super comfortable in English. So even if he sees all these ads, he sees all these things in news, but half of it he doesn't understand. So I don't know who mentioned it, but the dinner table conversation is a very important part. Like I try to have conversations with him regularly around, what happened at a doctor's appointment, or I try to answer any questions that he has about a text message that he's received from his bank. I try to talk to him about, hey, a bank will never call you and ask you to give your stuff. If you have a problem, you let me know, or you call the bank, or you call the doctors. Don't share all this information. So just being able to keep these conversations ongoing and part of our daily lives, like it's important. That helps a lot. My mother-in-law is Spanish. She sees all these ads and stuff, but again, a lot of the stuff is only in English. So we try to do the same thing with her. So I think that's where it really, I want to hone in on, keep talking. Don't assume that they got it, the government's got it, it's on the news. Of course they got. Our parents do need help, and just regularly not monitoring, I guess, but just keeping an eye out, what they're up to in life. So regular check-ins, what's going on, sort of stuff. If they're struggling with anything, just offering a hand of help, that I got this, I'll call the customer service, don't worry about it. That has personally been my approach.
That's so funny because I had the conversation with my father the one day, 88 years old. And I said to him, so what happens if somebody calls you and says that your grandson, Jack, needs $5,000 and you need to wire it? He goes, oh yeah, $5,000. We can wire him $5,000.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So that started a different conversation.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are some books too, I think, that have become much more helpful, because I've had conversations with this woman who's created a book that you read to your children about cybersecurity. And what she's found is that, and this is from, I think, sort of more the health space, that if you yourself or as a non-cybersecurity professional won't actually change your habits very easily, but you will insist that your children do it, right? Just like, harder to require adults to use bed nets, but the adults will require their children to do them just as a precaution, right? So through reading the book to the children, the kids pick up the cybersecurity tips, but then the kids then also annoy the parents to get them to do it, just like with seatbelts, right? It's most effective when the children are there constantly complaining, "Dad, why aren't you putting on your seatbelt? Dad, put on your seatbelt." That is what really gets them, rather than just cyber professionals convincing them. And to be fair, I haven't had much luck myself, even convincing my own husband on some of these cybersecurity tips. So I don't know.
But I think the
What do I know?
really useful part of that, right, is as we're engaging this broad community, is that we have to translate it into accessible language, right? Explaining multi-factor authentication to someone not in the, in the community, it takes more words than it needs to, in order to describe it. And so I think that becomes really useful. If we can say you have an obligation to patch things, right? When it set auto update on your up on your devices, just do it. It's not going to break things. 99.999% of the time, it's not going to break things. So just do it. And that will be great. That'll, avoid many things. Know how to respond to the call when somebody asks you for $5,000 for something, or if they walked up to you on the street, how would you respond? Okay, perhaps that's the same way you should respond over the phone. Those kind of basics become important.
Yeah.
So one of our audience members is asking where that Google guidebook for K-12 is available. And I almost wanted to answer, well, just Google it, but I thought we should.
Yes, you can look up K-12 Cyber Guidebook, and it's online. I can put it into the, I think, is there a chat? I can put it in the chat.
You can put it in the chat.
But yeah, happy to share.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the great participation. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you all for joining us. On behalf of the National Cybersecurity Alliance, I want to thank all the speakers today for taking the time to share their expertise and initiatives with us. A recording of this webinar will be available on our website, StaySafeOnline.org, and on YouTube very soon. We'll also email a copy to everybody who attended. For more information about Cybersecurity Awareness Month and other year-round events, please visit our website, again, StaySafeOnline.org, and I invite you to follow us on social media as well. Thank you all for joining us today, and have a great afternoon.